Hello and welcome to the Weekend Sauce. My name is Corey.
And I'm Dom.
Today we've got a handful of topics to discuss. We'll be starting with the recent news involving Borderlands 3 and its unfortunate exclusivity deal on the Epic Games Store, as well as just sort of general thoughts on the series as well. Also, going off that, we have another big Anthem development. Keep coming back to it. It was just in relation to an article posted by Kotaku author Jason Schreier. So just discussing sort of the nature of that article and the fallout that's sort of come about as a result. And if we have time, we're also going to be talking about some of the recent news unveiled at a few weeks ago for Final Fantasy XIV's Tokyo Fan Fest, as well as just a general discussion on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and some of the discourse that's kind of come about with its release and its difficulty. That being said, let's jump right into it. Borderlands 3. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'll hold off on the Epic Games thing. I'm just gonna, this Borderlands 3. It's exciting.
it's out. Yeah,
It looks good.
it's been a few years since the last one, right? So I mean, it's pretty neat that it's actually they're doing it, right?
I try to go back to Borderlands 2. The graphics a bit dated,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Yeah.
don't know. It's excited. I'm excited to see it in the next gen. We're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I know.
Um,
I think Randy Pitchford, who's one of the founders of Gearbox Studios, there. I think they were saying this is like the big one, right? So brand new graphics, brand new innovations with gameplay.
over
Hopefully,
a billion guns.
over a billion guns, which is, I mean, whatever.
I don't like that. I wish they just said, or they didn't even say anything at all. That's what I wish that they did, right? They're probably counting every single variation of different stats that you could have on a
Yeah.
gun, or
Oh
maybe
yeah.
taking a
They
little piece
certainly
of it
are.
and
They
move it.
certainly are.
It's like, come on, man, don't do that. Just let me actually have the real number of guns that you have, which is probably, not that much. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It is what it is, right? It's just to generate hype. So, that was back at PAX a little while back now. I think it's just only been a week. I think honestly, it has been that long. They had the sort of reveal trailer, and then the announcement trailer came out. I believe it was 2 days ago now, with a bit more specific information. So, I mean, narrative and story. We've got a new set of Vault Hunters who are dealing with, I believe they're the Children of the Vault, and the two brother-sister antagonists. The sister is a siren, at least as far as I'm aware. The sister is a siren who can steal powers from other sirens and then let her brother use those powers, which is interesting because traditionally speaking, sirens are only women. So she can sort of give her powers to her brother.
and how do you feel about them as antagonists?
I mean, we don't really know a whole lot about them
But just I don't know,
just
just their
yet.
looks.
I like the sister's design. I think she looks pretty neat. The brother is a bit weird. I think he suffers from kind of just the art style of Borderlands. Like, he looks really exaggerated, but not in a good way. Like, he's got the robotic arm. I think it's his right arm, which is like way bigger than his left arm. It just looks a bit off. I don't know. And he just wears a jacket and then he's shirtless. It's a bit
I
weird.
feel like they try too hard. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the characters try too hard. It's just the design, right?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just a Handsome Jack fanboy. I was talking to some people earlier, maybe you, Corey, I think
Mhm.
so, about how I don't think they're ever gonna top
Well, they
Handsome
can't.
Jack,
No, they
right?
just
They
can't.
can't.
They can't.
And I hope that they don't try and make them Handsome Jack-esque. I want them to be their own thing,
Mhm.
right? So the goal that I hope is going to happen with Borderlands 3 is that they make it its own experience. I don't want them to kind of piggyback off of Borderlands 2 or any of their past games,
Yeah.
right? For instance, the prequel was very, from what I know, was very Borderlands 2-esque.
Well, I actually ended up buying the pre-sequel after Borderlands 3 got announced because it was on sale, obviously, and it's the only game in the series that I haven't played yet or looked into, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely more like Borderlands 2, but the whole thing is like you're on the moon, obviously, so it's very gimmicky, which it doesn't really work that well. I mean, like, you would assume that the whole oxygen resource management would be a thing. It really isn't. Enemies drop oxygen canisters. There's always usually like some kind of way to get oxygen in a flash, so you're never really at risk of running out of air. So it really doesn't mean anything. Driving is still awful. So hopefully they fix that in Borderlands 3 because I absolutely hate the driving in pre-sequel and everything. Um, I really like pre-sequel just for the characters that you can play as. I've been going through as Wilhelm. I love Wilhelm. Um, just because I mean the way he plays is a lot of fun, and I mean I'm gonna go through as other characters. I mean you have the Handsome Jack clone, which would be
Oh,
interesting to play as. And going off that, actually, I wanted to bring sort of mentioning to the new Vault Hunters. So obviously we've got 4 new ones, right?
that's correct.
Top to bottom, we've got Mose, who's the gunner. She's got her ability is that she calls down this walker mech called the Iron Bear. So I'm really into Mose right now. It's because you know me, I
Is that
love.
the small one, like the?
She kind of looks like Sergeant Hammer
Okay.
from Heroes of the Storm with like the helmet, the military helmet,
Mm-hmm.
and she's short. And yeah, so she calls down a walker that she can pilot, and then also your teammates can like jump on top of it and use a turret, which is pretty neat. Amara is the siren, another siren, obviously.
True. True.
But she's more like, as opposed to like support focused, she's more like offensively focused, at least from what you
Saw
can
that
tell.
Azura's Wrath,
Yeah, well,
6 arms.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
got
yeah.
the like ephemeral arms that she summons, which is pretty cool, I think.
That looks
It
amazing.
does, yeah.
Potential.
So we'll see how that goes. There's FL4K, who I'm calling Flack, obviously. Flack the Beastmaster. So, I don't know. He had a bunch of different types of pets in all the trailers, so I don't really know how
Maybe
that's.
it's different builds. Who
Yeah,
knows
maybe.
how it works? But all of them seem
Yeah.
so like exciting. So it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because, so talking about the Handsome Jack clone and his abilities in pre-sequel, so we have the last guy in Borderlands 3 is Zane, who's the operative, and like I think if I'm remembering correctly, even in the first trailer, like you had Zane and he had all these like holograms and stuff, which is what the Handsome Jack clone uses in the pre-sequel. So
Okay.
like when I first saw Zane, I was like, is that just the Handsome Jack clone, but like he survived and changed his name or something? I don't know if that's the case or not. I haven't played through as the Handsome Jack clone, so I don't really know what his fate is after
Okay.
pre-sequel, but I don't know, maybe that could be a thing. I mean, I know like Zane has like a bunch of other stuff that he uses. Like I think he has like an arm-mounted drone that he sends out and all these other things. So, I mean, it's really hard to sort of guess like the narrative context and backgrounds of the characters until they're actually out, but I don't know, it's just something that I thought would be neat. So,
Now
um,
I have this worry. This worry.
worry, okay?
Okay. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe I've just been conditioned this way. I'm scared that most of the time when it comes to the West, like this games are live service or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Live game services. What is it called?
Games as a service.
Games
Yeah.
as a service.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm scared that they're gonna take this and bring it to Borderlands 3. All I want is a completed game.
I
Okay, or a
feel
little bit less when it comes to story for
Yeah.
Borderlands because that's what you need to focus on.
Yeah, so
Right.
I don't think your worries are unfounded. I definitely can see that happening, and I mean like, I guess we'll bring it up now since it's a good thing. So I mean, Borderlands 3 is going to be a 6-month exclusive on the Epic Game Store, right? So, um, clearly they're doing the best they can with regards to business decisions because I mean, as much as it's scummy and everything to be on the Epic Game Store like this, I mean it makes sense
It's true.
economically
It
speaking.
brings people to your shop.
Well, no, I mean like Epic Games pays them a certain amount of money to get on the store, which usually puts them in the green. So it just makes sense to be on the store, right? So there's that. Going off that, I can't. I struggle to imagine they wouldn't do a games as a service thing, especially with the nature of how Borderlands is. I mean, it's a loot shooter, right? A looter shooter. So I mean, if they're gonna be comparable to like Destiny's business model or even Anthem's, I guess you could. I mean, probably not a good example. We'll get into that later.
I
But like,
hate Anthem's business
yeah,
model.
but I mean like, because you have to imagine or you have to think about how Borderlands works, right? Like it's a game that's you can play solo, but it's way better with friends. They're adding split screen co-op now into
Oh
Borderlands
yeah?
3, which is pretty interesting, right? And you got to imagine that they're going to do the best they can to have all these different sorts of draws into playing the game with your friends and kind of perpetuating this end game sort of deal, right? Because it's not really the same as like Destiny and other things where it's like Borderlands is more of a straightforward experience. Like you do the main quest and that's kind
You
of
play Borderlands, yeah, as you said, for the experience and the story, right?
yeah,
No one's okay. The majority of players are not playing Destiny to go see what's happening.
yeah.
Sometimes the story's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Destiny's main thing is like its lore and stuff, and I mean they've been doing a lot better as of late. But like for Borderlands, like you can't, there is an end point, right? It's not just like, you finish the story in Destiny 2, you finish the main story, then you go into the expansions and all that, and then it's like, oh well, now I'm just gonna do Gambit and PvP and raids and whatever. Borderlands has always been different, right? It's like you have the side quests and everything and all this extra stuff that you can kind of do, but it's like you start the game and then you go through and you finish it, and that's about it, right? Like, the customization is pretty limited, right?
It's always just been about the guns.
Yeah,
It
it's
has
been
no
about
armor, maybe mods and grenades.
yeah.
But
Well, it's just there's not like a whole lot to progress towards once you finish, right? It's like you can grind for like these cool guns and stuff if you want to, but just as well you can just put it down and be finished with it, right? It's not like you have to stay in it. That's how it is now, at least. Like you were saying, for Borderlands 3, it makes sense that they would do this games as a service model where they keep
okay,
holding you in.
yeah, they keep pulling you in, but
Yeah.
I feel like they shouldn't make it like I don't want to see a cash shop. I am completely fine with okay, if you have a cash shop, completely cosmetics. Remember the skins? Those were great. If you want to put that in as a games or live service, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
fine. I don't really care about that.
Mm-hmm.
But please do not put anything that breaks the game.
Yeah.
Nothing pay to win.
Yeah.
I just saw recently with Bethesda and Fallout 76, right? They're bringing in a repair kit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You can repair faster than other people if you buy this.
Yep.
It doesn't drop in the game unless you
Yeah,
do a
it's
certain
just-
boss, which is
yeah.
pretty hard. I don't want to see anything akin to that in the game. I don't want to see a whole bunch of microtransactions overshadow the game and
Yeah.
bring it down to that level.
Yeah. I really hope they don't. Their model in the past has been good enough where it's like the extra stuff has always been like, new Vault Hunters is always great, right? Because it's just another entirely different way to play the game, basically, right? That's one thing I've always appreciated about Borderlands is that like the characters all play fairly differently, and even within the characters and their skill trees, they're not super different, but they're nuanced enough that
As different as you get with a looter shooter,
Well, you know what I mean, right? Like, so I mean, I'll bring, for me again, I'm going through pre-sequel and I've been playing as Wilhelm. Wilhelm has 3 skill trees like everybody else, and they're all fairly different enough to warrant sort of committing yourself to one, right? So like the one that I've been putting points into makes his offensive drone more offensive, like better, and that's one skill tree. Another skill tree is like in the middle where it's like it improves Wilhelm, his damage and his support capabilities, and then the other skill tree is more support based, right? So you have like this almost like scale of like damage in the middle or support. And they all make it so that you play differently enough, right? Like if you go down the middle route, like the middle skill tree, that one involves putting cybernetic augmentations on Wilhelm. So, you end up with a new melee ability. You can run while you sprint, right? The main kind of capstone ability at the very end is you get a shoulder cannon, right? Which is really fantastic. On the left side, the one I've been doing that improves his offensive drone, Wolf, that one's about having your drones up for a long time, having a lot of your DPS come from the drone as opposed to yourself, right? So it's these little different shifts, right? So I feel like when it comes, you were saying when it comes to microtransactions, the best thing that they could do is stick with what they've been doing and then maybe add a little bit of improvements, right? So like the skins, like you said.
Yeah, even gun skins maybe if that's what you want to do.
Well, I mean, like a lot of the skins in game now are just like recolorations. So maybe having paid skins that change more than just that could be possible. New Vault Hunters, that's always great. But like you said, if they do things where it's like special items or special things that change the game a lot, that's no bueno. That's not
like
good.
Everybody needs money, right? Like,
yes, of course.
I'm gonna bring in DMC, right? DMC just released Bloody Palace.
Yeah.
Free, right? And I think there's even more free DLC to come to
Yeah,
the game.
yeah.
I'm not saying you have to rock it like that, right? Like, I would be happy to give DMC 5 my money. Hey, take it.
Yeah.
You gave me a solid, full game. You're more than entitled to it.
Hey,
Take my wallet.
Hey, the best way
you
to
know?
make money is to make a good game, right? I mean, that's what I've always committed to. I don't know. I guess we'll see, right? Like, the whole Epic Games controversy is very sort of dividing in terms of how the game is being looked at. Because I mean, I'm not gonna get it on the Epic Games Store, so
Yeah, I mean, I can't say the same. It depends.
you might pick it up on the
I
when
actually
it comes
I
out.
might pick it up. The reason why is because I'm not gonna pick it up day one. I want to see
Yeah,
what it's like.
of
I want to
course.
see if there's any problems with Epic Store, right? Or I
Yeah.
want to see day one what it's like.
Hmm.
I just want to see how the game is. Unless there's something so amazing, something so phenomenal, you know, uh, that comes with the pre-order. I don't see myself really pre-ordering it.
Yeah.
The last game I pre-ordered was DBFZ and Dragon Ball Fighters,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, and the only reason why I knew I was picking that up is because I did my research on the developers, I did my research on
Yeah,
everybody,
you want to be informed,
and I
right?
knew.
You want to be informed. Yeah, that's acceptable. I know we have a. I think they're doing a gameplay trailer reveal, whatever have you, kind of soon.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's if it's not next week, then it's the week after.
And the game comes out in September.
September, yeah.
So what do you think about that? Do you think it was going to be that soon? Or
Yeah, I mean,
after?
I know Randy again. Randy Pitchford has said in the past that he's not a huge fan of showing games that aren't too far along in development, right? So I think, I don't know his exact quote, but he basically said that when they show things, he prefers when they show things that the release date isn't too far off, right? So it's not like they showed in 2018, you have to wait till 2019, right? So I mean that fits with what he said,
I think
right?
that's pretty fitting for what's going to come up soon.
For
but-
Anthem, yeah. Jeez, yeah. So yeah, I'm not that surprised. I mean, the first trailer was like 5 minutes. So I mean, like, man, 5 minutes of content for a game. That's pretty well. That's pretty good, right? So, yeah, I wasn't that surprised. I mean, it's still a ways away. Even longer if I decide not to get it on the Epic Game Store, like I'm leaning towards right now, because
Before I brainwash you,
Man,
Corey, it's so good,
well,
man.
geez,
Come
right? I
play
mean, if everyone's playing it and I'm just like sitting there like by myself, like I might have to. Like 6 months is a long time, man. That's half a year, right?
it.
Like
I know.
that's a very long time. And I mean, by that point, they might have like a
They're probably already collecting like a whole bunch of data on it too, right? Like,
yeah,
what is the minimum amount of months, right, that we could have of exclusivity,
Yeah.
right? That we can just buy these IPs that everybody loves.
yeah,
Which is amazing, right? Before they had a year, right? Now they're trying out 6 months and they're gonna see, like,
yeah.
how does that
See
work
what
out?
works best for them. I mean, I'm still disappointed that it's a thing. I mean, I'd really, really, really like it if Epic Games wouldn't keep doing this. They're still going to, of course.
Yeah, you can't knock it though. I mean, you
Um,
can knock it, but like,
Oh, I can knock
They
it.
have the money.
I can knock it, and I will
have
knock
the
it.
money.
But it's just, I don't know. I was pretty disappointed when I saw that was the case. I was like, oh well, that kind of sucks.
they have the money, and you can't blame the developer for taking it because it's just like, oh, look.
Again, yeah, it's
free.
it's a smart economic move. It's just a bit scummy for the consumer, which is us, right? So,
Well,
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe even at that point they'll have DLC out, so they'll have like a package for when it comes out on Steam, which that'd be nice. But we'll have to see. Again, I've been going through pre-sequel and I've been enjoying it fairly well. So I mean, if they improve on that, should be good, right?
yeah.
Should be good, and maybe we'll revisit it once the gameplay trailer actually comes out, and we see a bit more of the specifics. Because I'm interested in seeing what they change,
You
right?
think it's gonna be an E3?
That's a good question. I feel like not in a big way. They'll probably have a
On
trailer.
the side or something?
Yeah, that'll be on the side. They'll have a trailer that comes out. I think maybe like a story trailer or something.
I don't know.
Um,
I think one of the, like, Microsoft or Sony or like PlayStation, right? I think one of them will take the trailer and just
Yeah,
play it or something. I
maybe.
don't know.
I mean, I feel like maybe they'll do like an extended gameplay demo or like a narrative trailer where it's like, because I mean, all the trailers that we've had so far have no voice acting or anything, so
True.
maybe it'll be like a narrative trailer where like somebody's narrating the story. Probably Lilith, because she plays a big part, or at least seems to be playing a big part in Borderlands.
Yeah.
3, 'cause
Oh, and Maya's back too.
might as well, yeah. I mean, again, like I mentioned at the start, the way it seems to be going is that the antagonist, the brother sister duo there, they can take the powers of sirens. So like in the trailer, there's a part where like Lilith is on the ground and she doesn't have her siren tattoos. So the assumption is that her powers get stolen, right? So she's
I hope that the dynamic between the brother and sister, right? I hope it's kind of like corny and kind of like.
hey, it's Borderlands. It's going to be corny. Like,
well,
that's
obviously,
guaranteed, right?
I hope so, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like the corny, like, yeah, don't touch my stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of the things they've continuously done really well is like have characters go from game to game. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like you go into a new game and it's like
It's not like it's a new world.
yeah,
and
it's
they're
not like
tying
you forget
everything
about the
together.
old characters, right? I mean, like Borderlands 1, we had our solid cast, and then Borderlands 2, they're a big part. and even in pre-sequel, they're a pretty big part as well,
True.
right? So I like how they put their characters in
Do you think
through
the
the
next
games.
step for Borderlands that they could do, right, is maybe take old characters and make them playable, right? Again, right? I don't know.
No, I don't
You
think
don't
that
think
would.
they'd ever like make
No,
that
I
as like a
don't.
price thing that you could pay for or something? I don't
I
know.
don't think that'd be conducive to smart business practices. I mean, like maybe if they no, they would never do it for a free thing and like making
No, no,
play
no, not free, not free.
right and making players pay money to like
It's like a character though. They made us pay for Gage. They made us pay for the Psycho. They made us
well, yeah,
pay
but they were
for.
new, right?
They were new,
That's the
right?
thing.
But so they're old.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like for new characters, it makes sense. But for just like porting old characters into the game to play as, that's a bit. It's just like you've already done that, right? So what does it really matter? It's kind of a it's not a problem or an issue or anything. It's just like I certainly wouldn't pay money to play as Gage, even though I love playing Gage. Um, I don't think it'd be a smart thing to do.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know. It'll be again, it's got to be another thing on our radar for the weeks to come, because especially with they're doing the gameplay trailer soon, so that'll be interesting to see again what they've changed. At least that's what I'm looking forward to. Speaking of changes,
Oh,
or at
boy.
least development changes. So yeah, we have this big article from Kotaku of all places, right? And Jason Schreier of all people, who have put out this big article on Anthem's the tumultuous development of Anthem, right?
Jeez,
you-
where do we even start?
Yeah, where do you even
Like,
start, right? I mean, the article itself is just super.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
it's
I
so
know where I
long,
want to start.
right?
I know where I want to start.
Go
So like
ahead,
this
yeah.
took me an hour to read, right?
To like digest, right? Like
Just go through everything. It's a
Yeah,
long article.
it's very long.
And I took short mini breaks throughout it while I was reading it, right? Very small. But what I wanted to talk about is, what do you feel for Anthem right now? Is it pity at this point? Is it hate? Is it more understandable? Like, I remember talking about this prior. I don't even play Anthem. I just follow it religiously for some
You kind
reason.
of have to follow it, right? Like
I-
it's I swear, like every week it's something new, right? Like
Like,
what is this? Like the third time we've been talking about Anthem? 'Cause
I know.
Stuff just keeps happening.
This is the Anthem sauce. Yo,
Weekend Sauce, Anthem.
Anthem
the
sauce. That's
podcast,
us right
yeah.
now.
No, I mean, I feel like at this point it's like you said, it's pity, right? I pity the developers who, well, at least to a certain extent, I pity the developers who were on this project, especially all the developers who ended up leaving or like having to take sort of mental health leaving or mental health absences. Jesus, like they were saying in the article, right? Like people would get so upset and so sort of depressed and everything that they'd have to like take some time off, right? That's just not okay, right? Like
It's not
no
okay.
work
He
environment.
also
should be
had
that
a
bad.
following up tweet actually that's saying that other developers contacting him saying that it's not only Bioware, insert my organization here, my company. It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Well, I
It's
mean,
the
like
same story.
I don't know if you remember for when Red Dead Redemption 2 was coming out, but like you had all these claims and sort of things coming to light where it's like the work hours that people were putting in were just like far and away just ridiculous, right? Like far more than like 40-hour weeks. Like we're talking like at least 60,
70,
like
yeah.
upwards of 70 or 80 or whatever have you, right? That's just insane, right? I mean, the more I hear about like developing video games, the less like interested I am in it or anything. I almost don't want to hear about these things because they're so like surprising and awful, right?
So I don't know, but I don't know. I guess we'll talk a little about the situation. There was a bit of an airing of dirty laundry, I guess.
Yeah, it was all again, like, the article is posted on Kotaku by Jason Schreier, and to his credit, he did end up doing a lot of sort of journalistic research for the article, right? He had a lot of testimonials and
for
quotes.
our viewers, definitely check it out. Maybe I'll
Oh
post it
yeah,
in the
no,
link
I would
below or
I
something.
would certainly definitely recommend looking at it. I think there's a video version, but I would recommend the written version. He's Schreier's way better at writing than he is at sort of speaking his content.
Mhm.
And again, it's pretty well written. It's long, but it's again you have all these testimonials and quotes and things from Bioware employees or ex-Bioware employees or anything, and it's really quite telling as to like how Anthem ended up where it ended up.
So we start with Anthem in the beginning. 7 years, right, of development.
Yes.
At first it was called Dylan, I believe.
Yeah, it was they were calling it was codenamed Dylan because they wanted it to be the Bob Dylan of video games,
Mhm.
right? Which is okay, I guess. I mean, pretty lofty aspirations, but go off. And yeah, so they had I mean, it's almost like saying like troubles and difficulties with like what they were doing is kind of underselling it. They really had like no like direction for a
Well,
long
at
time.
first they had a direction, right? They were trying to do this kind of like the planet's dangerous, right? You need the suit to go out there. It
Yeah,
would be
well,
less. It'd be like Iron Man, but
well, no,
more
remember that
realistic
it was saying
in the beginning.
it started closer to being something like especially the suits, the javelins started being closer to something more akin to like NASA suits,
Yeah.
right? So, maybe they had like a kind of a concept, but they didn't really know how to apply that, right? And that's really what I got.
They had
from the article.
ideas, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't know how to apply it because that's where the
Yeah.
Frostbite engine came into.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, I didn't really know this to be a thing, but apparently the Frostbite engine, at least from what I can tell, is like awful, and especially just because of how it works, I guess, at EA, where it's like, BioWare would be asking for help on Frostbite towards the Frostbite support team, and the team wouldn't have enough time or wherewithal to like give them the help that they needed because they'd be focusing on like FIFA or Battlefront or whatever. So
Right, because those
Yeah.
are the ones that bring in money.
The bread-
FIFA
yeah, the bread
brings in
makers,
like
yeah.
$1 billion to
Mhm.
EA, right?
Mhm.
With just the microtransactions. So it makes sense on a business front.
Oh
But
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't really see this as like EA's fault. Yes, EA made it worse, right? But 7 years.
Well, I mean,
7 years. I think this is like a really bad this management of just
Oh
time.
yeah, no,
at
certainly.
BioWare.
Like everyone loves to crap on EA, and for good reason. They're not fantastic. Obviously, they have their issues, but like people always forget that like EA is the publisher, right? Like they're the head of whomever. But then there's also the developers themselves, right? So like BioWare, you're reading about all this stuff that's going on at BioWare and like all the issues at BioWare, right? It's like, well, we have to take that into account too, right? Like I mean, I know you were mentioning here kind of before we got started, but like for a lot of like the people who would like come on the project
Yeah.
and then leave, or like shifting developers from one project to another, right? And then there's all this like pedantic competition between like BioWare Edmonton and BioWare Austin, BioWare Montreal,
Yeah,
which is now
yeah,
shut
yeah.
down, right? Like all this BioWare specific stuff that people seem to gloss over a lot of the times. I mean, up at least until this article got published, right? So, I mean,
I don't know if you remember the name of the first developer that they had for Anthem, right? Where they compared him to the Enterprise, right? And he was leading his ship.
I can look that
So
up
anyway, in
right
the
now.
article, if you can pull up the name for
Yeah.
me, and I can get it, where they talk about that. Before they had decision, right? They knew what was going on. It was a well-oiled machine, right? It's kind of surprising if you're comparing it to the Enterprise, because
Casey Hudson.
Casey Hudson, thank you.
Casey Hudson, because, Casey Hudson's like the head guy, or was the head guy for BioWare and Mass Effect, and then he quit, and then he came back.
Yeah,
And
so he
his,
quit.
His team was like the Enterprise, and he was the Jean-Luc Picard, right? So,
Mhm. But where's the vice captain? So there has to be someone that could take over. But anyway, that's besides the point, right? So they used to be a well-oiled machine. They used to know
that
the
BioWare
direction
magic.
where they were going.
Yeah.
No, don't me start on that nonsense. All right. And then after they brought in, who was it? David Gator?
yeah, so David Gator is, he's most well known for being one of the head writers for Dragon Age. I think it was mainly Dragon Age 2, if I'm remembering correctly, although I'm not sure about his involvement in Origins. But yeah, he's mostly known for Dragon Age, right? So the BioWare's fantasy series, not their sci-fi series, obviously. I believe he was brought on and was sort of told about Anthem conceptually as being a sci-fi fantasy type thing.
Right.
And
He tried to his best of his abilities, right? And
Yep.
He's great writer, right?
Good
He's
enough,
done
yeah.
Mass Effect 3, I think.
Nope.
Mass Effect trilogy? Or
No, so David Gator's most known for Dragon Age. I don't think
Just Dragon Age?
Yeah,
He didn't touch Mass Effect, okay.
I don't believe he had any involvement with Mass Effect or anything.
Okay.
He's okay. I mean, Inquisition is probably one of BioWare's worst games, gameplay-wise, as well
No,
as
not
writing.
anymore.
Well, you know what? Now that we're talking about Dragon Age Inquisition, sorry to go off kind of on a tangent here, but there's that one part in the article where they're saying, like, there were people at BioWare, the developers, who were like, we need to tank Dragon Age Inquisition to show
Well,
EA.
not that they need to tank it. They said that we hope that it fails.
Yeah.
Right?
They like, because they need to show that games shouldn't be made this way, right? But
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
Dragon Age Inquisition performed commercially well, so that didn't really end up happening.
It's all your fault. You consumers. You guys
Consumers.
are the worst.
Mindless consumers. No, but yeah, I mean, like you were saying, so David Gator gets brought on, and then I think it was 20. He ended up leaving.
He ended up leaving.
He
Yes,
ended up
he did
leaving.
leave.
Yeah. So
I don't know who we got after that. Was it? How long did David Gator stay on for?
I don't think he ended up staying long
He didn't stay long
at all. Right? Like again, he was told about Anthem conceptually, and then he started doing work on Anthem, and it was.
Oh, they got whoever was working on Dragon Age 4.
Yeah,
that?
that's right. Whose name? Maybe it was Drew Karpyshyn, actually. I can't remember. But I know for Gator, for him, his biggest criticism when he was working on Anthem was that it was going to be too much like Dragon Age.
That's what everybody
Yeah,
said,
it's
right?
like, why are we doing the same thing?
Dragon
Let's
Age
do
in
something
space.
different. So it's like, okay, well, we won't do what we've always done. What are we going to do instead, though?
No one had the
And
answer
nobody
to
had
that.
the answer. Yeah, exactly.
And that's always how it was for meetings that they explain in the article,
Yeah.
right? They're always saying that, like, we're going to do it this way. And then someone in the room, I'm sure you've done a group project before, and then there's always that one guy that's like, but what if we do it this way? And you're just like, well, okay.
Yeah, well, it's like
I guess.
it's like they would have like these roundtable discussions, but like nothing would ever be decided on, right? So it's like they would always finish the meeting or the discussion or whatever, like in this like abstract way where it's like, okay, we'll think about it, or like we'll figure it out, but then they would never figure it out.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, what are we working on?
And
right?
I think even like they had like one whole year that was like that. That was very little.
Yeah.
That's what it said in the article. That was
Yeah.
done. I think it was 2016, 2017. one of those
Probably.
years.
I know there was the big gap there from when they had Patrick Vice.
Patrick Sutherland.
Yeah. When they were creating the demo and stuff for him, because like when they first showed him, he's like, "This is not what you promised. Like, this is
This sucks.
basically, yeah, he basically said it sucked." And then they were saying, we're like, we just need to make a game that looks good, that like is pretty. So they did the demo with like, they finally decided to have flying in, because that's another thing they mentioned.
Yeah, they took it out and they took it back in.
Yeah.
So can you imagine this, right? Going through all this time, 2012, 2013, 2014, all the way till today,
Yeah.
right? And you're taking in and you're taking out flying. So what does that do for the rest of everybody else's departments, right?
Well, it messes everything up.
So the maps have to change,
Yeah.
right? The abilities have to change.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't arc it as much. Maybe you don't have as much free range control, or maybe you have more, right? Like everything changes. The enemies, right, that you're facing.
Literally everything changes, right? Because you can't
the
have
story,
you
right?
can't have vertically based gameplay, right? If you take out flying, it's on a flat surface. I mean, you can jump, whatever. Who cares about that? But like, so the environment designers and the artists and everything, they have to adjust towards that. The narrative designers have to remember that javelins can't fly or players can't fly, so they have to sort of contextualize all these gameplay elements in a very sort of, again, horizontally based consideration, right? Everything gets changed.
And like, what's just so funny to me, you already said it before, what's so funny to me is I could just imagine, I'm a developer, I'm passionate about the game,
Yeah.
I'm saying, yo, like, we're not going anywhere. Like, we need some actual decision on
direction,
how
yeah.
we can go somewhere. And then after my boss, he takes a cup of his Joe, he sips it. Oh, don't worry, Dom. Bioware magic will happen.
Yeah, the Bioware magic.
At the end, everything will
comes
work
together,
out.
yeah.
If you pray, get on your knees right now. If you just believe in the magic, the pixie dust, if you just let it happen, that's when we're going to go farther. That's when we're going to see everything. It's going to line up.
Well, it's such like a corporate thing, right? It's like, tell your employees, don't worry, believe in the Bioware magic. It's like, okay, but what is the Bioware magic, and like, how do we make it happen? Because just saying it's gonna work out, that doesn't do anything, right? Like they had that metaphor with the hockey stick, right? It's like, man, screw off with that stuff. Like, just like there needs to be like actual practical results and like practical ways to progress development.
The hockey stick can, stick itself somewhere.
Seriously, no, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, like, there's even stuff too, like some of the ironically, some of the stuff that's been memed about. They were saying we don't want Anthem to be memeable, right?
Oh
can't
my
have
God.
can't have another Mass Effect Andromeda where people are pointing out all the silly animation errors and stuff like
It's
that.
all that damn C team's fault.
Yeah, can't have that. They didn't want to mention Destiny. They weren't really allowed to talk about
That's
Destiny,
true.
which
That's
is
true.
just so counterproductive, right?
So, but hold on, before we even get to that point, let's backtrack a little bit as
Okay.
we're going through. Okay, so no one knows what Anthem was after the period that. Hold on, let me pull up the name. Casey Hudson.
Casey Hudson.
That Casey Hudson left. No one knew what the clear direction was after that. No one knew what Anthem was because they didn't want the Dragon Age version of it. They're trying to make something new. They're trying
Yeah.
to innovate, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to innovate already on the Frostbite system.
Yeah.
Because they don't have saving, right? They don't have.
Mm-hmm.
They do have inventory, but they don't know if the inventory is going to work
Yeah.
on an online game. And I don't understand though that I understand that they want to make something new, but why can't we use old technology to make something new? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I get that maybe it won't work, but why can't you implement it in the first place and then
Yeah.
try from there?
Well,
right?
it's like it's already hard enough. They already have a hard enough time because they don't know what they're doing. But then it's like, even if they did want to work on stuff, they have to figure out Frostbite, which is like you said, they could just use an old system. But I guess EA or Bioware.
Well,
or
yeah,
whomever.
they already made some of the technology
Yeah.
on the Frostbite system for Inquisition because
Mm-hmm.
EA mandated that everybody uses the Frostbite system for everything, right?
Oh, yeah,
If you're
right,
under them.
right.
So I understand why EA did it. They just want to save money. I can't knock them for it. It makes sense. If you
Mhm.
have it, just insource everything. Let it work. Let it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and you gave 7 years.
Long
okay?
time.
That's a
Again,
long time.
their new flagship IP, right? It's like, I mean, we've got Dragon Age 4 presumably on the horizon at some point.
Just a
coming out.
little thing before we continue with Anthem.
Sorry,
how,
go ahead.
How excited are you for Dragon Age 4?
Not
You lost
excited at all. Not excited at all.
all.
Again, Inquisition was honestly probably one of the worst games I've ever played. Not like I'm not even lying. Like I'll argue that point. Like it is not a good game by any stretch. And even like narratively, the stuff that ends up happening is not super interesting or compelling within the Dragon Age universe until they're kind of their sequel teaser DLC that they came out with, right? Which I hate. I hate that. I hate that so much, right? It's like they put the main story is like so boring and so whatever. Then it's like all the kind of cool stuff is in DLC. It's like, man, just screw you. Like put that in the game proper, right?
Nah, you're just not believing in the Bioware magic.
Whatever.
You're not a believer.
So I mean, like for Dragon
Sacrifice
Age,
your firstborn to the Bioware magic.
for Dragon Age 4, they'd have to like really, really do something compelling or innovative. Because at this moment, I don't care about it at all. That series is so weird to think about, just of how different it's been over the years, right? Because like Dragon Age Origins was hailed as one of the top sort of RPGs, and then Dragon Age 2 was like a de-evolution of that, and then Dragon Age Inquisition was like even worse. So it's like,
So you thought it just got progressively worse.
oh yeah, easily.
I've heard that like people, again, love Dragon Age Origins, right?
Yeah.
2, definitely a step back.
Yeah.
I didn't play any of these. And then Inquisition was a step in the right direction. That's what I've heard.
I mean, I
I
don't-
don't get into the Dragon Age
Yeah.
series because like
That's fair. That's fair.
it's not my
It's not your thing.
stick.
It's not your thing.
And I wanted to get into Inquisition, but I was just like,
No,
this
'cause
game,
it's
this
not
game
good.
doesn't.
It's not good. See, the thing about Dragon Age 2, I'm probably in the I'm not a contrarian, but I don't hate Dragon Age 2. A lot of people don't like it for very, acceptable reasons. I kind of look past a lot of that stuff. But for Inquisition, the issues are too prevalent and too frequent that I just can't do it. So for Dragon Age 4, again, they have to do something super, super compelling or interesting to actually get my attention, because I just don't care about the series anymore. It's kind of the same with Mass Effect. I was really into Mass Effect 1, 2, and
I still remember it
Up
like
to
it was
3.
yesterday. Mass Effect 3 ending for you.
I'll never forget. I'm never going to forget. What do you mean? It's been years. Who cares? Literally, I little baby Corey, not baby Corey, but like, mindless consumer Corey had pre-ordered Mass Effect 3, like not the super fancy edition, but like the fancy-ish edition, right? Where you get like some new armor or whatever. There's like an art book, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And I got it the day that I was going on vacation. And I wasn't like upset, but I was kind of annoyed. I remember telling my dad, I was like, yeah, I just got like the game that I wanted to play like this year, and we have to go on vacation. He's like, oh, just play when you get back. I'm like, yeah, but by that point, everyone's going to be done with it. So like, I did not use the internet for like the whole time we were on vacation. I got back and I just like, I was like, I just have to play it. Like I need to be
I
able
remember when
I
you
need
were
to
in
be,
class.
I need to be able to like talk about this game. So I just like, I got home and I just like blitzed through it, right? Like that's all I did. And I got to the end, I was like, it's just indescribable, right? Like the emotions of like disappointment, frustration, like all this stuff, like the 3 colors. That's
But besides the 3 colors, wasn't the game okay?
No,
No,
it wasn't.
No.
It was not. Everything about Mass Effect 3 is so mediocre at best. It sucks. And I mean, like they added the Citadel DLC, which kind of makes things a bit better. and they did the extended endings, and they tried fixing it kind of, but not really, because there's still a lot of issues in the story proper, right? Like, I'm not even going to talk about any of the silliness or anything involving Cerberus or any of that stuff, because that's been talked to death, right? And all this other stuff.
I think we're going to talk a little bit later on about updating games after. But we're going to go back to Anthem.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about updating games after. I know that feeling of it just feels so wrong.
It's
and I'm going to
weird.
explain the reason why it
It's
feels
weird.
wrong, at least to me. Right? So where did we leave off with Anthem? So, right. E3 comes around, 2017. We're going to go to this point. Okay? And that's when the reveal for Anthem is. And it's so funny. If you go online, everybody's just like, I don't believe it. You know, it looks, there's something off. You know, there's something wrong.
What is this? Yeah.
What is this? And I was a little bit optimistic. I was just like, I don't trust it. I wouldn't
That was me,
play it.
yeah.
I wouldn't trust it.
Like, I don't trust it.
But I was
Bioware,
hopeful. I was hopeful in the sense, at least for me, I don't know about you, Corey, but I was hopeful. I was just like, please prove me wrong. I want this to be good. That's what I said.
I mean, for me, it was like, again, I didn't trust it because, I mean, think about the games that Bioware come out with, or like, you know, Bioware's last titles were Andromeda, not good, Inquisition, not good, Mass Effect 3, not good, right? So it's like, for me, I was like sitting there, I was like, I'm just gonna keep my head down and weather the storm of Anthem. And if it turns out good, maybe I'll pick it up.
Well, that's what it's like, right? Like, anytime we saw 2017, they see the E3 demo, right? Everybody sees it, they're like, oh, wow. So basically, right? Wow.
Yeah.
And then after, what we don't know is all the devs are like, oh, shit. That's what we're making.
Wait, what's Anthem? I
That's
thought it
what
was
we're
Beyond.
making.
I thought we were working on Beyond, right? It's like, what?
Yeah.
They changed the name. Was it like a week before?
So
the
it was
E3?
called Beyond, right?
Yeah.
And then they changed it a week before that Beyond
Oh my
T-shirts and
God.
everything, right?
Like, could you imagine?
Oh
It's like,
my God.
it's like you go home, your partner or your kids or whatever. It's like, yeah, we're gonna watch E3. See that game that I've been working on. It's like,
It's called Beyond, man. I'm wearing my Beyond T-shirt.
yeah,
I'm
it's
chilling
like
at home.
you're like chilling at home, like with your family or with your friends. It's like, wait, what the hell is Anthem? Like, what? Like, what?
What the hell's an anthem?
Yeah, what is this? Right? And, it was just,
And-
and even they were saying like it didn't even make sense with the story because it's like there wasn't an anthem in the game yet, right? That's a concept they brought in, obviously, but like,
To tie things, they had to make sure. They're like, oh wait, yeah, Anthem. Okay.
yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine.
You're making your story. You know, you're like, yeah, because you go beyond the walls and you're trying
Yeah.
to go out there.
You have the one city. It's like beyond the walls is
And then after you're like, yeah, we can't get beyond. It's Anthem now. You're like, what the hell? Like,
okay, I guess. Like, sure.
So now that they know what type of game they're making, it's still not good. It's not a well-oiled machine.
Nope.
Right? You need to update everybody on what's going on, because I'm sure not everybody watched the E3, and I'm sure you shouldn't be watching E3 to find out what game you're making.
Seriously, you should know these things beforehand, right? Like,
And so now they know that they're trying to make a looter shooter, and as you said before, we can't compare it to Destiny, which is oh my God, everybody knows how bad Destiny
again,
was on
extremely
release.
counterproductive because that's like the best example you can pull from.
And you can take what they did well and what they did poorly. And
And-
not only that, you can use the Division, right? What they were encouraged to use was Diablo 3.
Which-
Thank God, but it's not like they really did anything with that. I'm going to tell you that. But, yeah, so 18 months in, that's when they start actually working on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually pretty impressive if you think about it.
Oh, they must have grinded that out, which, I mean, you know, good for them for sticking by, but
It's that Bioware magic that saved
no,
them.
well, no, it's horrible work hours and again over 40-hour work weeks, right? Which is not a good thing to be doing. It shouldn't be required. And I know they had Mark Darren, I think it was, who ended up becoming executive producer on Anthem.
And what he said was just finish what you have.
Yeah, he was more of the sort of directing voice that ended up kind of coming onto the project. So, you know, credit where credit's due. I'm sure he helped the process along extremely well. Because I mean, prior to that, it just seems as if nobody had any specific direction or anything, right? So
Right, and even if there was like no direction, right? I'm sure I've heard a little bit of stories of game development, right, where someone wants their piece of equipment being used, what they worked on, right, or they want their music piece in there or something that they worked on in the game, right? And then as a lead director, you know, you're saying, no, I don't want that. I want this, right? And then they're going to be out of spite. There's stories of this. Out of spite, they will go and be difficult to work with going forward, right? Like literal children.
Yeah.
They're not doing it against you, right? They just wanted this, and they need to go
Yeah.
forward with this product instead of yours.
Yeah, well, no,
right?
it's funny you mentioned that, and this is kind of, again, kind of an offbeat example, but I was reading something about Getter,
Okay.
the EDM artist, DJ, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he canceled his last tour and he's quitting music or something, but basically because like he was getting a lot of criticism and flack for his newest project, which he says was based on how it wasn't like similar to all the other music that was coming out. And again, this is kind of an offbeat example, but it's like I think we talked about this before, but it's like when you work on something for so long, right? And then you put it out, and then you have a bunch of people who are like criticizing it a lot. That's really tough to deal with. So in this case, it's like you said, if you work really hard on like this piece of music or this asset or something, and then you go to your kind of team lead and you say, hey, like here's that thing I've been working on. They're like, no, we didn't want that. Go start over. It's like,
Well, not like
that
start
really
over.
sucks.
It's more like, okay, we can use this as our starting. I know what you're saying, right? That they work hard on it, but at the same time, this is your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, let's use the EDM guy. His job is to make music for people, right?
Yeah.
We are the ones that allow him to be famous. We give him this fantastic
Yeah.
life. If we don't like what he puts out, right? I'm not saying like tough luck, but tough luck. Like I guess that is what I'm saying.
Well, no, it goes both ways, right? Like on one hand, it's like you make this stuff because hopefully you enjoy it. So part of it's for yourself, but at the end of the day, people are paying for this thing, right? So
I get
it's like,
that. Like it's like okay, I'm gonna use something I'm more familiar with. Logic's album,
yeah, go ahead.
awful.
Which one?
His newest one. I can't remember the name
Yeah.
of it.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like its own thing. It's kind of like a book or something. He's trying to tell a story. And he's doing like he's branching out into different genres of music.
Is that the one with Steve Bloom on it, where he
It might-
narrates it?
It might be.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, keep going.
And it's just like, why? It's not good. I want to listen to a Logic album, and I want to listen to predominantly like a rap album. He still raps on it, right? But like, why is he singing on it and stuff? And
Yeah.
I don't like his work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna be like, oh, like Logic worked really hard on this album,
Yeah.
and he branched out to different people, so I have to like it. No,
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
He worked hard, but it didn't end up working out well.
And to
right?
make it even go further, right? When it comes to a game, if I'm the developer, I'm trying to make the game, right? I know it's hard. I'm not saying I wouldn't feel a type of way if I worked how many X hours
Yeah.
on this asset, right? But I want the game to continue forward. At least that's the type of passion that I have for games. If like this whole story told me anything, right? Like I feel like I want to jump in there, right? Not to necessarily to work all those hours. That's not what I'm seeing, but I don't know. That's the passion of trying to make a good game for other people,
Yeah.
right? Trying to bring that to light.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I mean, it's literally the production and sort of money making process of taking someone's ideas and intellectual properties and publishing them for money. It's tough, right? Like, again, if you're the head writer or like whoever they ended up bringing in as the head writer for Anthem. I mean, we'll use Gator as an example. Gator writes all this stuff for Anthem and comes up with all this stuff, and then it's like, well, no, we don't want to do this. It's like, well, he probably was pretty passionate about doing that, and then, his ideas and stuff are rejected. So, on one hand, I get what you're saying. It's like, you want to be able to make these good games. On the other hand, I'm sure there's all these sort of unknown and hidden issues that come about with that process. So, I mean, I feel, and you know what, this is probably very more restricted to AAA games, right? Because if you're an indie developer, you kind of just do whatever you want, right? You don't have the reach of AAA, and you don't have the sales and marketing abilities, but at least you get to do what you want. So I feel like it's kind of like stuff that you give up, right? So if you work for these big companies to make these truly amazing games and stuff, you're giving up a lot of your artistic and creative freedom. If you're indie, it's the opposite, right? Like you're doing what you want, but you might not have as much sort of reach in the market.
That's
if
how
that makes any
yeah.
sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's just that would be the ideal reality. That's
Yeah.
just not how it's
not how it is, yeah.
happens. And it's so sad. Like what are we paying these $90 here in Canada,
Yeah.
right? What are we paying all this money for if I get the game, it's not working? there's bugs. It's crashing my
Or
PS4.
it's
It's
just not
crashing
fun.
my Xbox. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have a certain level of quality because what am I paying all this money for, right?
Yeah.
And then they have the audacity, right, to say, well, it will be better in so-and-so time, right? How X months. They give me your roadmap. I hate roadmaps. I can't stand roadmaps. You're basically telling me that in however many months, I'm going to have not even the content of the full game, right, of a piece of a game. It
Yeah.
still feels shallow after.
It does, yeah. Like
It's
I
awful.
don't hate roadmaps conceptually. Like I think it's a good idea to show what you're going to be working on, but that shouldn't come at expense of stuff that's in the base game, right? So you have a base game that's really good and like full of stuff stuff to do in content, and then you say, well, hey, we're glad that you like the base game and we're glad that we put enough in there. Here's what we're going to be adding to it, right? So it's like, you brought up Devil May Cry 5. It's like,
If that had a roadmap, hey, let's go.
yeah, you know what I mean? They say, here's all the things we're doing. Also, by the way, it's free. And so they say, we have Bloody Palace coming out. We have this coming out. We're working on these things. So they're just extras, right? It's not like you need them. It's just if you want to. If you want to get these things, you can.
Like, it's just so disgusting.
Yeah.
Fallout 76. We have the roadmap, to look out
Here's
for it.
what we're
Anthem,
doing.
already
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Then we have, let me see, Sea of Thieves, that roadmap. I was interested in Sea of Thieves. I looked at the roadmap for 2 seconds. I was like, this is garbage. I don't want any of this.
Yeah.
This is nonsense. And if anything, this should have been in the game already.
Like a lot of the stuff
If
should
all
be
of
in the
this was
base
in the game
yeah.
already, and you gave me another roadmap, then I would be like, okay, I'd consider it. But it's a puddle. There's nothing to do, okay?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, the expression goes, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle. And that's consistently a thing that keeps cropping up in a lot of these games, whereby, everything looks really nice and pretty, and they say there's lots to do, but then when you actually sit down and play, it's like, well, this is not great. This is
Right,
boring. There's
and-
not a lot to do.
And here's another question I want to ask you,
Yep.
right? I'm guilty of it, of buying games after they're good after X months, right? For Honor, Siege, right? Ubisoft is the king of this. They release awful games, and then they bring it up to an
They're
acceptable
the
level.
kings of smartening their acts up, I guess.
And I find it just so bad. Like, why can't you just wait till... I understand you have a quarter, right? You have a quarter, you need to...
Yeah.
You need to get this
You have
through.
deadlines, yeah.
You have deadline, right?
Expectations, yeah.
Because if you have no deadline, then we're going to be going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you might as well be an indie developer at this time.
Yeah, things
because that's
need
how
to
it
get
is.
done. Yeah.
And I understand why things have to get done, right? Like,
Mhm.
someone paid money, someone gave you money, and you need to show me what you have. You have to put out the product. We're not trying to go negative forever on this.
Right.
But roadmaps, I guess it's, as you said, it's not the concept I hate. I just hate.
I hate what ends up getting put into it. Because
Mhm.
again, it's stuff that gets put into these roadmaps and gets posited as stuff they're going to work on. It's like, well, maybe that should have been in the game as it came out. We are kind of running out of time here. Just one thing I wanted to hear again, kind of discuss a little bit and hear your thoughts on. So, Bioware did end up putting out kind of a response to the article, right?
Stupid.
So, obviously, corporate PR drivel as usual, as is the standard. One phrase and thing that I've been interested in, and also that Jason Schreier's been interested in talking about a lot, and other people on the internet. I'm going to read it out here. So it says, "We chose not to comment or participate in the story because we felt there was an unfair focus on specific team members and leaders who did their absolute best to bring this totally new idea to fans. We didn't want to be part of something that was attempting to bring them down as individuals. We respect them all, and we built this game as a team." And obviously, I'm just for posterity's sake at the end, it says, "Our full focus is on the players and continuing to make Anthem everything it can be for our community, yada, yada, yada." So obviously they're saying...
This
they're
is
still gonna
Bioware
run
that
it.
said this, right?
Yes, Bioware is the one who said that. And then also actually, I believe it was yesterday, Casey Hudson, who commented saying that a lot of the issues in games development are very real and legitimate. They're going to look at it. But like, I want to focus on this idea of like the article, Jason Schreier's article, unfairly attacking individuals. Do you think that's a warranted claim or not? Because I mean, like,
No, I think it's just they didn't read it. Or what I know that he did is he sent them an email, like, just around what's happening,
Yeah,
right? Like a
so-
legend of what's going on, right? So I guess who he's attacking is the directors, right? The head honchos at
Yeah,
Edmonton.
the suits, if you
Hmm.
will, or the head developers at least. And I know, yeah, it's like you said, he at least sort of tried to reach out to them kind of before the fact and kind of everything.
But he
Uh,
doesn't demonize them. He doesn't
no,
say that
no,
it's
not
all their
even
fault. The
close.
only thing he does is maybe indirectly because he's just saying that he's telling the stories
He's telling
of
the
other
story,
people.
yeah, of other people, the testimonials, right? So it's kind of like you said. Um, there was an update in the article. I'll read it out here. It says, well, I'll just summarize it. It says, well, minutes after the publication of the article, they put up the blog post. We had sent over a bullet-pointed summary of what was in this piece, although they did not have a chance to read the article before publishing their post, which makes it a particularly bizarre response. So the timeline seems to suggest they didn't read it well or read it all the way through. Um, it's it says while our article names some senior people at Bioware and while we'd ask about the roles of various leaders of Bioware during the game's development, readers can judge for themselves whether Bioware's assumptions about our article are correct. We don't think they were, right? So it's like, again, it's like you said, the article is just basically telling the stories of these workers. So I mean, if it is these individuals who are directly hampering the development of the game, well, maybe they need to take a step back, right? Because I mean, you shouldn't be named in these types of articles, right? It should just be like the senior staff or whomever is
Hmm.
giving us
Hmm.
issues, not like Patrick. What's his last name?
Sutherland.
Sedman. You know, he's name dropping him specifically as being an issue. That's not something that is
He didn't
good.
even do anything wrong.
You know what I mean? Though it's like, I mean, I feel like that portion of the response was kind of petty, almost.
Oh, it was just in poor taste.
Yeah.
It just encapsulates like everything that's going wrong with gaming, and it's just this nasty feeling in my stomach that I get whenever I talk about mostly AAA studios,
Yeah, it's
right?
always AAA studios. Always, always, always.
It's just so sad.
Yeah.
All they care about is the money.
Well, it's like I said at the start. Like I almost don't like talking about these things because of how discomforting as it is, right?
All they care about's the money,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying you should have given Bioware more time. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that EA is the big bad guy. EA didn't help, but EA didn't, take their knife and
Yeah.
stab
It's not all their
Bioware.
fault. Some of the fault has to be put on Bioware.
All right, the majority of the fault falls onto
I
Bioware for
guess that's
just
true.
not
Yeah.
working together as a team,
Hmm.
not expressing. Well, they expressed their concerns. The developers did at least, but for not listening, for not
Yeah.
following through, for not, management of time, right? For
Not
just
communicating and functioning properly.
right. Why do people need to leave for medical health reasons?
Yeah, for
Right?
mental health reasons.
Sorry, mental health
Yeah. Well,
reasons.
it's not even like, oh, physically speaking. It's like mentally,
People are
right?
crying in closets, 1 to 3 months leave, and
My
sometimes they
God.
go,
Yeah.
sometimes they come. They don't come back or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Like,
insane. That should not be happening at any job, right? So I don't know. It's just again. I mean, we have this response from Bioware. It doesn't really clear anything up. Casey Hudson, who has said that.
oh wait, before we end, right? I wanted to. You never answered my question of should we buy games like Siege, like Anthem
Oh, you
once
mean
they
after the
get good,
fact?
right? After is that something that we do? Is that something that we shouldn't do? Like,
I don't know if there's a consideration of should or should not. Um, I would say, assuming that you are planning on doing something like that, never buy full price in that case, right? You shouldn't, there should be a level of punishment for games like that, right? Like a game should be good and operable when it comes out. So in that case, you can pay full price because it's an acceptable reward for having them make a game like that. If they take the time, if it comes out and it's not good, but then they take the time to make it better, I think it's fine to give it a purchase, but maybe not at like the $80 value, right? Because
yeah,
again, it should have been good at the start. It shouldn't like there's no reason that games should be coming out not at
they
their
come
best.
out at like, and we're basically beta testing the game
Yeah,
for
pretty
however
much.
much, and we give them money to beta test the game, and they're licking their lips, they're smiling like, "Hey, you like that, don't you?"
Yeah.
Well, I got a nice season pass lined up for you.
Seriously.
It's like, what?
Check out our roadmap, buy our season pass. No, but it's like Shigeru Miyamoto of Nintendo fame, obviously. One of his sort of main quotes that people always go back to is like, like a rush game is bad forever, or something like that. Basically, he said that like it's better to delay a game, or sorry, it's something like a delayed game is good as it comes out. A rush game is bad forever, right? So it's like take the time. If you really have to delay, that sucks obviously, but take the time to put your time and effort, hard work to make something good, and then add on to it, make it even better, right? Take it that next step. That's how you make money.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Any other final thoughts on that, or Anthem, or anything?
My final thought is like, honestly, I used to be the same thing, right? Of thinking, when it gets good, I'll buy it then, and I'm okay. Even paying full price, right? Like, 'cause
Yeah. Okay.
you worked however much time, now I can give you my money, right?
Okay.
I did the same thing with Destiny. I did that with the games I listed before,
Yeah.
right? But it just, reading this article kind of just opened my eyes to things, right?
Okay.
Of all those past games that I have bought or I've seen this happen to, right? Where the game comes out and it's trash. It's trash. It's like no one even played this. And you're thinking, what are they doing? And this is what it is. Everybody has their hockey stick. You know what I mean? Every company is using that hockey stick.
Yeah.
They have their own form of Bioware magic that they're praying towards because people are like, oh snap, I have to actually get this done.
Yeah.
And it's just sad because especially if I'm paying $90 and then you expect me to pre-order and then you expect me to get the season pass because the season pass includes what the game should have been.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's just so sad. That's all I have to say.
It is very
sad. Depressing.
I think that is a
honestly.
very, very good way to put it.
I don't know how I feel right now about games. I don't know if I'm going to even buy Anthem because of it, because I wanted to like Anthem.
No, I have no intention of buying Anthem.
If Anthem got good, I don't like any of their practices, especially in their store, but like if Anthem got good, I wanted it to be, something good. But like after reading this, like I don't know if I'm going to buy it.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to end off. Hopefully the game industry gets better.
It won't.
Yeah.
It won't. I've lost all hope.
You've lost hope. Well,
I didn't have any hope.
I have to
They somehow
hope.
took more.
I have to hope. I have to. We've been in this game for too long, right?
I thought it was a joke when I was reading on sites. The East is better than the West, but the East is better than the West.
What do you mean? That's a whole other.
The East is the best.
It is. Listen, what do you mean it was a joke?
They actually have a heart. Well, I thought it was a joke. I didn't think it was real. Like I was just like, nah, you guys are just playing.
We can talk about that another week because the East is often overlooked.
They actually care about
games.
gamers. Yeah. I hate saying that, but it sounds so cliche.
They do. They make great games.
But
okay?
they do make good games.
They do make good
so
games.
Sad. This is the year of Capcom.
Hey, we didn't get time to talk about Final Fantasy or Sekiro, but those are two Eastern games that are fantastic. I mean, just on that note,
the East is killing it this year. But yeah, on that note,
we'll head out. One thing I want to mention: Final Fantasy. Real quick, Dancer. I don't know why it's not a healer, but I guess range DPS is acceptable. Gender-locked races are not an issue. Everyone complaining is overreacting, and they were overreacting upon release.
Never had a problem with that anybody, to be honest.
It's nonsense. I'll tell you about it later. Anyway, we're going to sign off now. As always, thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever have you. We got YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, notifications, all that great stuff. Twitter. Follow us. Talk to us.
That's
We'd
right.
love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.
Yeah, take care.